So what we're going to showcase today is we're going to show you guys the step-by-step process of installing an RCC Turbo Stage 1 kit on the Gen 3 Hayabusa. We have Aaron Pierce's Gen 3 Hayabusa here. It's completely stock with the exception of a couple bolt-ons, so it has the Yoshimura mufflers on it, probably installed at the dealership. And he's got these Kormoto beautiful looking wheels that really match the paint. So this is really going to be a bike that's going to run as well as it looks. So we'll get started and get this up on the dyno and see what kind of runs we have and go from there. Okay, so we just got done dynoing Aaron Pierce's Gen 3 Hayabusa. One thing that the dyno didn't show is the whole time we were doing the pull, because he has the rear of the bike lowered a little bit, the IMU that is installed from the factory was actually not happy. It was thinking that the bike was in a bit of a wheelie the whole time. Plus, with the front wheel not rotating, it's going to do some funny things on the dyno, especially at lower RPM. So if we look at the dyno chart, we can see down low, it's kind of choppy. And again, that's just the ECU trying to control the front wheel height and trying to get the front wheel to read off the ground. But if we go up here to about 8 grand, we get to the full power range. 175 horsepower was the best that this pulled stock with these Yoshimura mufflers on there. So we're going to pull this off. We're going to show you guys the turbo kit we're getting ready to install on this. So check this out.
Ooh, this is nice. Girl, this audit is you right here? Okay.
Hey guys, Trevor here from Sense Racing. Today's video I wanted to show you guys how to put RCC Stage 1 turbo kit on. We've already went ahead and removed the side bearings, gas tank, and the radiator. You guys can check those videos out in the description. But now we got to go ahead and remove the exhaust system and the oil cooler. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so the oil cooler is held on by this oil line on the left side as well as the oil line on the right side here. And then we have it held on by the bracket that connects it to the engine. So yeah, let's remove that and the oil cooler will come off. All right, once we have went ahead and removed the oil cooler, we next can remove the exhaust. The exhaust, I'm gonna first start off by removing the 2 O2 sensors, and then we can go ahead and just kind of follow the bolt starting at the end of the mufflers. We have this bolt here. We gotta take off this guard, and then that gives us access to that bolt behind there. And then yeah, you just kind of follow it along, and then you get up to the headers. All right, once we have went ahead and removed the oil cooler and exhaust, we next need to drain the oil and remove the oil pan. I'm not gonna show me draining the oil just because if you are gonna put a turbo kit on your bike, you should know already how to drain your oil. But next, yeah, like I said, we gotta remove the oil pan. So yeah, let's get it. All right, once you have removed the oil pan, you actually need to drill a 3/4 inch hole on the left side for the oil pickup.
Use a fool.
As you can see, I've got my Sharpie mark there. Yeah, so let's go ahead and drill that out. All right, once we have went ahead and cleaned out our oil pan, we next can install the fitting and the washers and the nut. You want to make sure to use thread sealant on the washer and then red Loctite on the threads. This just makes sure we don't have any oil leaks, because that would definitely not be good. So yeah, let's go ahead and install that. Let's go ahead and put this oil pan back on the bike. All right, real quick, before we go ahead and install the oil pan, I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew, you gotta be really careful when putting this back on, not to rip the gasket. This oil pan gasket's obviously very important. The best thing to do is kind of hold it like up here and then start each bolt, making sure that the gasket's not getting pinched. And then we can go ahead and, after all the bolts are on there, we can go ahead and tighten them one by one and torque them down to factory spec. So yeah, let's go ahead and install it. All right, once we have went ahead and put the oil pan back on, we next need to take off the wiring harness from the left side ram air tube. We're actually gonna have to cut out a small section so the charge pipe can go through the frame right there. If you're using the blow off valve, you're gonna need to cut off more, but since this guy is not, we just get to cut it here. To take the wiring harness off, it was pretty easy. Just gotta pop the fuse box off of these two clips here, and then there's a zip tie holding up the wiring harness there I cut, as well as the plastic clip that went into here. And yeah, oh, and I also unplugged the rectifier as well to kind of loosen it up, or to let the wiring harness get out of the way. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how to cut this and we'll get going. All right, there's a few ways you can cut out the section of the ram air tube. The first method is actually using a small drill bit, and you can put quite a bit of small holes and then cut out with the razor blade. That kind of takes a little bit of time. So I'm going to be using a grinder wheel, which is the second method. You just got to be more careful and make sure you cover up the intakes though, or the throttle bodies. You definitely don't want any of the plastic shavings going in there. So I'm going to put some microfiber towels over that. So let's go ahead and get this cut out. right, once we have went ahead and cut out our slot for the charge pipe, we next can go ahead and install the turbo. We need to make sure to remove the stock exhaust gaskets and replace them with the gaskets that RCC provides, and then use the 4 Allen bolt head style on the top for the header bolts, and then use the 4 bottom ones that he also supplies that are 10mm socket bolts. So yeah, let's go ahead and get that going. All right, once we have went ahead and got the turbo mocked up, we next can cut our oil drain hose. I'm gonna cut it about 1/4 inch from what it came, because depending on where you drilled into your oil pan and put your oil drain fitting, I'm just gonna need a little bit of modification. So I'm gonna take about 1/4 inch off, and then we'll insert it into this fitting, which goes to the turbo. So let's get it. All right, next we can go ahead and thread on the hose to our fitting that we put into the oil pan. Make sure not to use any thread sealant. Luckily, my dad caught me before I was gonna put any on and rip my ass. So on any of the AN fittings, you don't need to put any thread sealant. Now on the pipe threads inside the oil pan, you wanna make sure to put that. But all right, let's go ahead and thread this on. All right, once we went ahead and installed that hose, we next can remove the oil pressure sensor located on the right side of the motor. And yeah, let's go ahead and remove that. All right, once we have went ahead and removed the oil pressure sensor, we next can install the fittings that he supplies. Just make sure to put thread sealant on all the ends that don't have the cone shape like this. So this one wouldn't get them, but all the other ones do. And then, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. All right, once we went ahead and installed the brass T, the brass 45, and the straight -3 fitting, we can go ahead and reinstall the oil pressure sensor like we just did. And now we're ready to install the oil block-off plates. All right, once we went ahead and installed the oil block-off plates, we can go ahead and remove the oil filter, and we need to remove the oil restrictor, and I'll show you guys how to do that. You'll see the oil restrictor right here. Using an 8mm Allen socket, we can go ahead and remove that. All right, once we went ahead and removed that restrictor bolt, we can go ahead and install a new oil filter. Yeah, when you put these oil filters on, you just want to go hand tight. You don't want to crank on it with a pair of pliers or or oil filter socket either, just hand tight. All right, once we have went ahead and installed the new oil filter, we next need to zip tie all of the vacuum lines with the supplied zip ties. All right, now that we're done with that step, we can go ahead and notch the upper radiator deflector on the left side. This is for the charge pipe to clearance. As you can see, I already have mine marked up, and yeah, now I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. All right, as you can see, I went ahead and trimmed mine up. I just used a pair of snips and then the Dremel to clean it up. Now we can go ahead and put this back on the Gen 3, and then we can tighten all the header bolts and the turbo bolts. All right, next we gotta cut out the left and center tab on the radiator to make room for the turbo. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, as you guys can see, we went ahead and put the radiator on, and as well as the charge pipe. It's not tight yet, but we just put the general layout so we can go ahead and tighten those down, and then we'll move on to the next step. So stay with us. All right, next we can go ahead and mount the billet fuel rail mounts that we have here that were included with the kit. We're gonna use the 5mm bolts that he also includes. So yeah, let's go ahead and put them on. All right, once we went ahead and installed those adapters and torqued the 4 bolts to 4 foot-pounds, we can go ahead and install the O-rings into these adapters and put the adapters on the throttle bodies. Let's get it. All right, next we can go ahead and install the 45 degree elbow fittings onto our fuel injectors. Make sure to use some O-ring grease on the injector O-rings, that way you don't pinch and cause future leaks. I'm going to be using Super Lube, and these actually come in the kit that we send back if you get your fuel injectors cleaned by Schnitz Racing. So if you also need that cleaned, you can check us out at schnitzracing.com. So yeah, let's go ahead and put these on. All right, doing the same process, we need to go ahead and put some grease on these O-rings, and then we can insert the fuel injectors into the billet fuel rail. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. All right, next we can go ahead and install the other set of injectors into the fuel rail. Same thing, just make sure to use O-ring grease, and yeah, same process as the first time. So let's go ahead and put those in, and then I'll catch you guys up on the bike again. All right, as you guys can see, I went ahead and installed the fuel rail. Super easy. Just start with installing the bottom brown injectors and then kind of rotating it to the top ones until the injectors go into their bores. Yeah, so we can go ahead and move on to the next step after we plug in the connectors. Let's get it. Next, we can go ahead and install the fuel pump. So I went ahead and jacked the bike up and removed this bolt, which is where the fuel pump is going to be mounting to. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. All right, guys, I'm back. Unfortunately, I'm kind of in a time crunch, so I wasn't able to film everything I wanted to. I had to put the camera down and just get to work. I installed a lot of things, and it probably took 4 or 5 hours, but honestly, it was super easy. As long as you follow the instructions that RCC supplies, you'll be able to do it, no problem. The first thing that I did is went ahead and installed the fuel pump, which sits right here on top of this suspension bolt. And then I routed the hoses. One goes to the inside of the fuel filter and then runs out to our E85 sensor, and then from our E85 sensor to the connector here, or the connector here. And then I went ahead, zip tied the sensor to the throttle cables, installed the fuel rail as well as the plenum and the 4 straps that he supplies. I went ahead and tightened all the charge pipe tubing and got that buttoned up, as well as installed the fuel regulator. I went ahead and installed the fuel regulator too, which sits down there. And yeah, that's about it. So we can go ahead, fill this bike up with oil and coolant, and she'll be ready for the dyno.
More power, baby.
Do it again. I wasn't looking.
Hell yeah, boys, 240 horsepower, not too shabby if I say so myself. This thing will be a beast on the street. The customer said he wants around 230. We went above and beyond here at RSR and delivered 240, And remember, this is the stock motor. That's why we're only running about 4 pounds of boost. It's going to be a reliable motorcycle instead of running 25 pounds of boost and it having a chance of blowing up. This customer wanted to take it on long rides, and he definitely will be able to do that. If you wanted to run 25 to 30 pounds of boost, you will have to go with a bigger fuel pump and bigger injectors and build the motor. But we definitely could do that as well. And if you did that, we could probably push around 500, 600 horsepower, which is way more than enough on the street. So yeah, let's go ahead and cut to some beautiful shots.
Bite the same way I took that tool. Let's go. Camp life, camp life. Hayabusa, Hayabusa. Camp life, camp life. You know, camp life.